Welcome back to EdTech 23, where we have been discussing the classroom management of technology integration. Our next guest speaker is Malay Biltmore, and she will be discussing the best practices in managing technology in education.
Digital natives are today's students. They are the first generations to grow up with digital technology. Our students have spent a vast majority of their lives immersed in video games, cell phones, computers, and numerous other types of tools and toys of the digital age. Children are being handed devices as young as 3 years old and quickly learning how to navigate these tools. From watching educational videos like Miss Rachel on a smartphone to playing educational games on a website such as funbrain.com on a laptop or computer. Our students have acquired the skills to operate these tools, so why not use them to enhance learning? Integrating technology into the classroom is important because our students are evolving. Just as I mentioned that our students are learning how to operate these electronics before even stepping foot into a classroom, we should understand that utilizing these tools can be beneficial to their academic success. Most of the younger generation already know how to navigate these tools, so why not incorporate them into learning? Does anyone have any input?
What about management in the classroom? Just like you said, our students can easily navigate these devices, but doesn't that also mean they could steer off the path of the lesson? I don't want to rely on technology to run my classroom, but I do want to begin integrating it into my classroom.
Great question. While technology can serve as an important tool in classrooms that seek to become more technology infused, we need to focus on some of the best practices for management of a digitally enhanced classroom environment. First, technology does not need to be the foundation of your classroom. You as the teacher should be the foundation. Technology should enhance your classroom, so deciding an appropriate time and place to use it in instruction is the first thing that should be considered. Second, how does this technology enhance learning for your students? Similar to the different subjects in school that all possess their own intended tools, so does technology. You wouldn't use a calculator to try and write an English paper, it just simply won't work. This goes for what technology tools you plan to use in your lessons. Third, monitor your students. Walk around the classroom and monitor your students' activity. Also, providing them with feedback while they are working can be beneficial to them, so they know what you expect of them.
Okay, I understand that a calculator won't write an English paper, but can you provide an example for using technology in a lesson?
Absolutely. Take for instance a high school history lesson where students are placed into groups to create a mock trial. We could have them do it the traditional way and create a script and go in front of the classroom and present their mock trial. However, that doesn't help us to integrate technology in a useful way, does it? Instead, we could have them split into groups and research different popular trials on a mobile device and gather information for how they want to do their version. Then you can allow them to decide a creative route to present their mock trials however they choose. By either an animated movie maker which they can work on in class, or by filming their own reenacted video outside of class. This can also play back into the first best practice of deciding an appropriate time and place for it. Finally, you want to make the lessons entertaining and effective. Integrating technology into lessons should excite your students and encourage student engagement.
Okay, but what about lesson planning? I already follow the same lesson plans every year because it saves me time building new ones, and I know that those lessons already work.
While following a lesson plan every year can be beneficial to you as the teacher, it is not always going to be beneficial to your students. What may have worked during one year may not have the same effect on your students 3 years from now. Like I said, our students are digital natives, so we should alter our lessons as such. You can almost always take an old lesson plan and find somewhere within that plan a way to incorporate technology. Whether that be just an instructional video you created to introduce a lesson to your students, or a website or mobile phone app to do test review with your class.
Well, I have a bad history with technology, and I don't always understand how to work it when it fails. What do I do if I have built a lesson that incorporates technology, but the technology fails? What do I do then?
Have a backup plan. You stated you like to reuse your lesson plans every year, correct? Keep an original copy and a technology-integrated version of that same lesson plan on hand in case something fails with the technology. Also, keeping in close contact with your school's technology person can be beneficial when problems arise, especially if you are less familiar with the technology. Have a backup assignment for your students to do that doesn't require technology but still allows them to progress through their assignment if they are unable to use the technology.
Ms. Biltmore has done a great job presenting best practices for classroom management of technology. She has allowed us to speak with a special guest on behalf of her remaining presentation.
Hello, my name is Amber Watford, and I am going to be doing the remainder of Ms. Biltmore's discussion with you all today. Does anyone have any questions they would like for me to start off with?
Have you considered that not every classroom or even school has enough devices for each student? I teach at a low-poverty school and we're lucky to have a computer lab for the entire school to use and one computer for each classroom. We don't have a laptop, computer, or tablet for each student to use in the classroom.
You make a great point. There are still ways to integrate technology, even in low poverty schools, or even just schools that lack in technology resources. Speak with your students. Chances are some of them either have a mobile device or even a laptop or family computer at home. For these instances, creating videos and assignments that can be done from home would be more beneficial than expecting them to use technology in the classroom. However, if you still want to use technology during your lesson, take advantage of the computer lab. You may need to schedule it around other teachers and classes, but try and allow ample time for your students to work on those computers. Also, you can use that one computer in your classroom for lesson planning as well. Try breaking your students up into small groups and allowing each group a day or time to work on an assignment or lesson. While the small group is working on the computer, the other groups can continue to do the work they need to finish that does not require the use of technology.
I am currently using Kindle readers in my classroom for our Shakespeare pieces that my students are required by the state to read. I find that my students are enjoying using these devices, but I can't monitor their reading as well as I could when we used iPads. How does the management strategies of specific technologies play a role in tech integration?
Clearly, for students using a Kindle, it can be more difficult to assess students' on task performance. However, you can allow specific time solely intended for using their reading devices. This can also go with any device being used in the classroom. Cell phones can be managed by incorporating some type of system where they must put away cell phones when they are not being used or must be face down on the front of their desks. Computers are easier to manage, especially when connected to a school's network, because you can place blocks on specific sites that are not beneficial to learning, such as Facebook or Twitter. Also, mentioning devices on the same network means you can put blocks on specific sites that whatever device on that network tries to access. So, any student using a cell phone, tablet, laptop, or school computer will all be blocked from the same site. One thing that can be beneficial is to incorporate check ins with your students occasionally. Allow them the chance to tell you whether they think the specific device is distracting or enhancing their learning. Before I wrap up this lesson, is there any other questions about best practices of managing technology in the classroom?
Yes, actually, I am the instructional technology specialist for my school district, and I was wondering what the best practices would be for managing one-to-one classrooms and BYOD classrooms.
I'm glad you asked this because I almost forgot. I know I answered that gentleman's question earlier about schools with little funding and a lack of accessible technology, but I suppose I should dig deeper. Managing a BYOD classroom can be tricky because you chance not every student having a device to bring with them. Or if they do have a device, maybe it is not compatible with the applications you are trying to implement. Some ways to manage this problem would be having an extra device or two kept inside the classroom for the students who don't have a device to bring to school with them to use or that you know will be compatible with the applications you are using within your lesson. Also, just because the classroom is BYOD does not mean your students should always have their phone out. Instructions and reminders of when to bring their devices should be implemented at the start of the school year as well as before class meetings. Having somewhere safe and secure for the students to place their phones on days where devices will not be used can help prevent distraction within the classroom. You should consider, too, that if every student has a device of their own they plan to use during instruction, you will need a strong enough bandwidth to support this. In terms of a one to one classroom, inform your students of digital literacy and citizenship before beginning instruction with these tools. Also, keep time on task at the forefront. Always have some type of material ready for your students to do. If you have an assignment prepared for your students to do that you allocated 30 minutes for, have another assignment for your students to work on or some type of educational game that they can do if they finish early. Log off occasionally. Though using the technology is beneficial, find time for the students to shut off their devices and solely listen to the teacher. This can be done for an hour or two depending on the time frame of your class. This prevents the students from getting off task when the devices are not being used and trying to search the internet or scroll social media.
Thank you, ladies. You have both done an excellent job discussing best practices for classroom management of technology. This concludes EdTech 23. See you next year.